Hey there, fellow explorer, and welcome to a special Espirito edition of the Deep Dive.
Espirito.
Yeah, Espirito Deep, you could say.
I like that.
You know, it's Italian for expert, so we're
Ah,
taking our expertise to the next level for you today.
I'm
And today we're going somewhere truly amazing, a city carved into sandstone cliffs hidden in the Jordanian desert.
Petra.
Petra, that's right. We're using the Wikipedia article as our guide, so get ready for a whirlwind tour. But before we jump in, I have a question for you.
Okay.
When you hear the name Petra, what pops into your mind?
I'm betting you're picturing that iconic treasury facade, right? But the story of Petra goes way beyond that. It's about human ingenuity, cultural exchange, and a civilization that thrived in a very harsh environment.
I'm already hooked. So let's rewind the clock. How far back are we talking?
Hold on tight because we're going way back. About 9,000 years.
Wow.
We have evidence of Neolithic settlements near Petra, like Beta. It shows that people have been drawn to this area for millennia. And get this, Petra has gone by a lot of names.
Oh, really?
Pel, Sela, Sayer, and even Rakhmu. Each name whispers a different chapter in the city's story.
Wait, Rakhmu. I've heard that before. That's the Nabatean name for the city, right? And doesn't Rakhama mean to mark or to decorate? It's like they were hinting at the incredible row-cut architecture they were about to create.
Exactly. The Nabateans, these nomadic Arab people, they rose to prominence in the 2nd century BC, and they chose Petra as their capital. They weren't just architects. They were masters of adapting and thriving in a place most would struggle to even survive.
You're telling me, imagine trying to build a city in the middle of the desert. Water's scarce, the sun is relentless. It's not exactly a walk in the park.
Yeah, and yet the Nabateans didn't just survive, they thrived.
So how did they do it?
They had this ingenious system of dam sisters and channels. They collected rainwater and channeled water from miles away. It transformed the landscape into an oasis.
Okay, I'm picturing this bustling city in the middle of the desert. But how did people even get there? Was there a secret entrance or something?
Well, imagine walking through a narrow gorge, the Sikh, towering sandstone walls on each side, sunlight filtering in from above.
Oh, I bet that was magical.
Yeah, you can practically feel the anticipation as you go deeper into the gorge.
Like the desert's revealing a secret path, leading you to something really special.
And then boom, you emerge from the Sikh, and there it is, Al-Khasna, the treasury. This breathtaking facade carved directly into the cliff face. Pictures don't do it justice.
It's one of those places that just makes you want to stare in awe. The detail is incredible, and you can see the Hellenic influence in the architecture, the broken pediments, the tholos. It even has bullet holes. I know it's probably not true, but I love the idea of Bedouin treasure hunters trying to find a hidden fortune inside.
It's a great story, but most likely it was a mausoleum for King Aretas IV. Either way, it's an iconic symbol of Petra's mystery.
Speaking of impressive structures, didn't Petra also have a massive theater carved into the hillside?
You bet. Imagine a theater that could hold 8,500 people.
Wow.
And talk about resourceful. They even incorporated existing tombs into the seating structure. It's a testament to their ingenuity and their connection to the landscape.
It's like Petra wasn't just built in the desert, it was sculpted from the desert itself. Okay, we've talked about the architecture and their mastery of water, but what about their culture? What was life like in Petra beyond the incredible buildings? Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the amazing structures, but I'm really curious about the people who built them. Like, what was their daily life like? What do they believe in?
You know, it's fascinating because they weren't isolated. Think about it. You're a trader traveling across the desert, meeting people from all walks of life. You're exposed to new ideas, new gods, new ways of doing things. And the Nabateans were open to this. It shows up in their art, architecture, even their religion.
So they weren't afraid to blend their own culture with influences from other places.
Yeah, they were very cosmopolitan.
That's pretty cool. So what did their religious practices look like? Did they have temples like the Greeks or Romans?
You know, actually, their approach was quite different. Instead of enclosed temples, they created open-air sanctuaries, often carved high up on the mountaintops. Can you imagine worshiping under an open sky surrounded by those incredible rock formations?
Wow. Yeah, that's a powerful image. It's like their spirituality was woven into the landscape itself.
Exactly. And one of the most important religious sites is the High Place of Sacrifice. Perched atop Jebel Mudda, it translates to Mountain of Sacrifices. Archaeologists have found evidence of altars, platforms, and channels used for offerings and animal sacrifices. It makes you wonder about the rituals that took place there, with the city of Petra spread out below.
Oh, wow, it's giving me chills just thinking about it. So what kind of sacrifices did they make, and which gods were they worshiping up there?
We know that animal sacrifices were common, particularly goats. You know, Mount Hor, believed to be the burial place of Aaron, the brother of Moses, is very close to Petra, and that connection to ancient stories and beliefs is still present today. As for their gods, Dushara was their primary male god.
Dushara, was he a powerful god? What was he associated with?
He was a big deal. Think fertility, abundance, protection, all essential for a civilization of the desert. He's often depicted in a very stylized way, either as a block-like figure or a Bedouin, and alongside him was the goddess Al-Utsa.
Okay, tell me more about Aluza. What was her domain?
Al-Utsa was a force to be reckoned with. She was associated with strength, war, and even the planet Venus. Think of her as a warrior goddess, protector of the Nabatean people.
Oh, interesting that you mentioned Venus, because I've read that their religion had influences from Greek, Roman, even Egyptian cultures.
That's spot on. The Nabateans, like I said, they were incredibly cosmopolitan. Their beliefs evolved over time, incorporating elements from the different cultures they encountered through trade, and this is reflected in the architecture of Petra itself. As their beliefs changed, they adapted existing structures or carved new ones, layering their history into the stone.
So you're not just walking through ancient ruins, you're walking through layers upon layers of history. Each carving, each structure tells a story. It's like a giant puzzle, and we're still piecing together all the pieces.
What's even more fascinating is we're still making new discoveries. In 2016, using satellite imagery and drones, archaeologists uncovered a massive, previously unknown structure just outside the main city area. It dates back to around 150 BC. It has a huge platform, a monumental staircase, and a smaller building on top.
Hold on. They found a hidden structure using satellites. That's incredible. It's like something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie. What do archaeologists think it was used for?
Well, that's still a bit of a mystery. Its size and location suggest it likely had a ceremonial function, but more research is needed. To unlock its secrets, it just goes to show that Petra still holds many mysteries waiting to be uncovered.
Speaking of mysteries, we know that Petra eventually faded from its peak. What led to its decline?
Well, there wasn't one single event that caused Petra's decline. Think of it more like a perfect storm of factors. The rise of sea trade routes definitely played a role. Remember, Petra was a major hub for land routes, so when sea trade became more dominant, Petra's economic importance dwindled.
So it was losing its edge in the trade game. But didn't a natural disaster also contribute to its downfall?
Yes, in 363 AD, a massive earthquake rocked the city. It caused significant damage, particularly to their vital water system. And yet, to be honest, maintaining that sophisticated water system in the middle of the desert was no small feat. After the earthquake, Petra was just never quite the same.
Wow. I can only imagine the devastation. So it was like a 1-2 punch for Petra losing its trade dominance and then being hit by a natural disaster.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even the most magnificent civilizations are vulnerable to forces beyond their control. And it's heartbreaking to think that this once bustling city gradually faded into obscurity, becoming a lost city hidden beneath the desert sands.
Lost until its rediscovery by Swiss explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt in 1812. It's almost like something out of an adventure novel, isn't it? A lost city rediscovered after centuries.
Absolutely. And today, Petra is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of the new 7 wonders of the world. But with that recognition comes responsibility. The site faces numerous challenges, from erosion and weathering to the impact of tourism.
It's a sobering thought. We often take these ancient places for granted, but they're incredibly vulnerable.
You know, it really makes you think. We often take these ancient places for granted, but they're incredibly vulnerable. It's on all of us to be responsible stewards of this heritage.
Absolutely. So what can we do to help? Yes, so much of history is about appreciating what came before us and making sure we protect it for future generations. So what can we do to help with Petra's preservation?
Well, being a mindful traveler is a great start. Respecting the site, sticking to the paths and avoiding anything that could damage those ancient structures, it makes a difference.
Right. It's easy to forget that we're walking through history. I know it's tempting, but resisting that urge to touch those carvings or climb on the ruins is super important. Those details are irreplaceable.
Absolutely. And beyond being a good visitor, supporting organizations like the Petra National Trust, that's another impactful way to contribute. They do great work with preservation and sustainable tourism, but they rely on donations and volunteers.
It's a good reminder that we can all play a part, even from afar. Sharing information about Petra, educating others, and advocating for responsible tourism, it all creates a ripple effect.
Yeah, every little bit helps. It helps ensure that Petra remains a treasure. It's not just a destination, it's a World Heritage Site.
Thinking about how the Nabateans built this incredible civilization, what do you think is the most important takeaway from their story?
That's a good question. For me, it's the sheer power of human ingenuity and resilience. The Nabateans faced incredible challenges, from that harsh desert environment to, political pressures, and yet they carved this magnificent city from stone, built a thriving trade network, and created a unique culture that still captivates us today.
It's a story that reminds us that even when facing adversity, we humans are capable of amazing things. It's inspiring.
It is, and it highlights the importance of adaptation, innovation, and collaboration, all lessons we can carry with us today as we face our own challenges.
This has been an incredible journey. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to learn more about Petra and maybe even plan a visit someday.
Yeah, it's a place that just begs to be explored. If you could travel back in time to Petra at its peak, what would you be most curious to see?
Ooh, that's a great question. Imagine scrolling through those bustling streets, witnessing the trade firsthand, maybe even catching a show in that amazing theater. It's mind-boggling. What about you?
I think for me, it would be the people, hearing their stories, learning about their daily lives, and understanding their motivations for creating this remarkable civilization.
Well, a huge thank you to you for sharing all this incredible knowledge with us, and to all of you listening out there, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Petra. We hope you've enjoyed it, and until next time, keep those imaginations fired up, and we'll see you on our next adventure.